All right, here we are. Tyler Moss is with me, new friend to the channel. He's actually starting his own YouTube channel that's centered around Dynasty Fantasy Football. And here we are making an appearance on the Fantasy Flock Network. Super happy to have you on, Tyler. We're going to go through, do a Dynasty rookie mock draft. And do you want to just give yourself a quick little introduction, tell the people about you?
Yes. Hello. I am Tyler Moss. I am just new to fantasy podcasting, at least. Very actively involved in many different leagues, fantasy community wise. I like to run standard leagues, PPR leagues, dynasty leagues, and recently Devy leagues. That I'm very excited to now put my content and opinions out to a larger audience.
Yeah, well, that's great. If y'all like this video, make sure you go down in the description, subscribe to Tyler's YouTube channel. You'll find the link right there, real easy to go. And yeah, let's just jump right into it. And you want to start us off with, well, I'll give you the first overall pick. You can go for it. Who are you taking here?
Absolutely. And I feel like this is a big consensus pick right now that we still don't know where teams are picking. There's no combine stats out. I think it's a very chalk number one. And it's Deandre Swift, running back from the University of Georgia. Swift is 5'9", 215. He's 21. Uh, First year freshman, started um, only rarity behind Chubb and Sony Michel, but grew into that role throughout his sophomore and especially his junior year. He tops about 4.4, 4.5 speed. A really good running back, three down, most definitely, and can definitely bring home starting potential for a fantasy roster almost immediately in week one.
Yeah, I mean, I love the pick. I agree that he's my number one pick in one quarterback leagues as well. I will put the little asterisk here. If you play in a super flex dynasty league, this pick is Joe Burrow. That's kind of consensus at this point, but definitely in this format we're talking about, a one quarterback PPR league, DeAndre Swift is a great pick. I mean, if I have the option, I'm taking him there
Yeah.
every single time. He is a three down running back. He's most likely going to get first round NFL draft capital. And in my opinion, I think that's kind of the most important part of the process when it comes to these running backs. And I kind of think that he is he's not team dependent. Anywhere he goes,
Oh
he's
yeah.
going to be able to use well, but just because of how he's a weapon in the passing game. Do you agree with that,
Oh
or do
yeah.
you think like he
Oh,
needs to find a
absolutely.
good spot?
Absolutely. I think there's a few guys in this draft, and probably none better than Swift when it comes to versatility everywhere and in a backfield. Really good run stopper, pass stopper for an offense, although Georgia really did run a funnel running back system. Really good running back, and he can catch the ball out of the backfield. There's not really much else you want from a three down back, like with his size and his measurables.
Yeah, I mean, where would a good spot, like just off the top of your head, where would you want to see him go? It's
Oh,
probably a team that's picking near the end of the first round. Don't say
uh,
the Chiefs
definitely.
because everyone wants to see him go there. That's obvious. Do you have a second choice for him?
I really like Tampa for a lot of these kind of guys.
Oh
I
yeah.
think with how much Bruce Arians loves throwing the ball, any guy that can dominate a run game and as well can really open up an offense more than what theirs was already opened up to. And if he just does any slightly better at pass blocking than the other two, who really don't even deserve to be mentioned in a video like this.
Yeah.
If he does any better than that, I mean, there's no doubt he's playing three downs.
I mean, yeah, let's jump into another guy. I mean, at number two, I'm taking Jonathan Taylor. I kind of see him in a similar role. I don't think he's as strong of a pass catcher as DeAndre Swift, but Jonathan Taylor might just be the best running back at running the football in this draft class. And we saw this in Wisconsin. I mean, he's coming out with the perfect profile. He's 21 years old, just rushed for over 2,000 yards. He can be a three down back. He has no really flaws in his game, and he's going to definitely be drafted in top two rounds of the NFL draft. I could see him maybe, just maybe sneaking combine, but really the one worry, at least I've heard some people have about him, is he just took an insane amount of carries at Wisconsin. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but does that scare you at all? Just the amount of work he's already had coming into the NFL?
Oh, absolutely. Gosh, I mean, you don't set the rushing record um, for a season without a bunch of carries thrown on top of it. And just looking at his workload, even from past seasons, I mean, it's unreal the amount of beatings he must have, been getting through running the ball so many times. Not to even mention, going through high school as well. So you look at him going to the NFL, he's a guy who will start immediately. And
Yeah.
knowing that running backs kind of start to fall out around 28, 29, 30, with some exceptions, obviously. I think you're going to get a great few years from him. Whether he holds up, it's all played by ear, but really good running back for any team, startable wise, and really can do it all like Swift. And what we really saw was a development in his receiving game throughout the 2019 season for Wisconsin, and I thought that was a big improvement from what he was doing in his sophomore and freshman year.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree because going into this year, he was kind of lower on some people's boards just because he didn't have the passing game profile, but he proved that in his last season. And I will say, when it comes to everyone being worried about the amount of carries he had in at Wisconsin, I mean, it's not going to really matter because it's not going to affect his rookie or sophomore year. And I know we play Dynasty for the long haul,
Yeah.
but with how often we're trading, how
Mm-hmm.
how many of these guys are you going to have on your roster that long? We're 2 years in, and Jonathan Taylor's had a running back two and a running back one season on his resume, he's going to be a second round at the minimum startup pick. And if you are worried about the amount of carries he had in college with his longevity, you can trade him then for much more than whatever you drafted him for now.
And if you capitalize on success, I see him as a guy who, from the start, can be very big for a fantasy team and an actual NFL team. Um, I think if you get a great production from him at the beginning, you definitely can sell him for a high amount of pieces. People in dynasty leagues, especially, are always looking to stay younger when their team just isn't where they want it to be. So and again, like you said, you're never really stuck with players with how much you're moving and trading pieces. I mean, for example, my number one pick last year, David Montgomery, is not on my team anymore going into this next upcoming season. So, people are moving pieces around. So you're not really ever stuck with guys like that, but I don't think you'll be stuck with him, especially for the first few years of him being in the league.
Yeah, he's just a guy you're going to get an immediate return on. So do you want to jump into the guy you take at number three?
Absolutely. And this can be a little controversial because I know a lot of people are wanting to stick to the three running backs off the board to begin with a guy that you're going to grab a little later on. But I'm going to go ahead and surprise the audience maybe a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and take a wide receiver. I'm going to take CeeDee Lamb because his 2019 season was absolutely insane. Put up 13,000 yards receiving, 14 touchdowns, 62 receptions, and that's with a complete downgrade at quarterback, at least in my eyes, from
Oh
Murray
yeah,
to
no, that's
Hurts.
just objectively true. A complete downgrade at quarterback.
And I see him when you look at him in the open field and his deep route ability. I mean, he has, and my comps to him with obviously a ceiling being these comps. He has OBJ style running and deep route ability, and he has in what I would see as a taller AB um, kind of open field elusiveness and kind of can surprise cornerbacks on where he's at on the field and really can play anywhere. And I think that makes him very dangerous at this next level.
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I saw CeeDee Lamb in person just completely destroy my Texas Longhorns. I mean, he's just special with the ball in his hands. He does have, at least from what I've heard from the NFL draft scouts, he has some problems separating at the line of scrimmage. But I mean, when he has the ball in his hands, he can do special things. And we see that these NFL coaches, they don't really need wide receivers. Like a quote came out from Kyle Shanahan like a week ago. They don't really need guys to create a ton of separation. If they're going to be able to just be a weapon in the offense, they just want playmakers. So I think if he goes to a team like the Arizona Cardinals with Cliff Kingsbury and his old quarterback, Kyler Murray, they're going to be able to scheme him open, get him the ball, and when he has the ball in his hands, I mean, he's one of the, at least he was probably the best player with the ball in his hands in college. I'm going to go out there and say that. So I think he's going to be one of the best players with that in the NFL. But let's go to my guy now. I'm going back to the running back well, just because I think that these running backs, if you can get a guy that has a three down profile and he's going to give you an immediate dynasty return, I think you got to take him. And I didn't think this in the past, but I'm at the point where I'm kind of changing my mind here. And this is J.K. Dobbins. I mean, very similar to these running backs we talked earlier. He's 21 years old, actually tied with Jonathan Taylor in 2019 with the amount of rushing yards with 2003, which is really interesting. He just profiles as three down running back, second round NFL draft, most likely, and he's just athletic. He's everything you want, checks every box, doesn't really have too many flaws. He comes from a great program. We've seen Ohio State produce just top NFL running backs year after year. So, what do you think about this pick? Am I off here
Uh,
with J.K. Dobbins?
oh, absolutely. No, gosh, it goes back and forth for me. I definitely see Taylor and Swift being the 1-2. But Dobbins could easily be going 3 right here at this pick. I think he has great open field running. He kind of, and this is gonna be a little throw off. He kind of gives me a little bit of Marlon Mack in the style that he runs, because it's a hard run, but it doesn't look like he's hard running. He's very elusive from guys, and I think that's really going to shine in a pretty good offense, or really any offense he gets thrown into in the 2020 season.
Yeah, I love it. Let's go to your next guy. Or you're picking at number 5 here, and we did like a little mock draft right before we started recording, and this pick kind of surprised me. I think it's going to surprise some other people too.
Absolutely. Well, my pick is going to be Cam Akers. Now, who is Cam Akers? Cam comes from the Florida State University. Uh, Obviously a rival of my Gators. But man, the guy gave us headaches every time we faced him. He is able to do it all. He's able to pass catch. He's able to pass block. He's able to run with high elusiveness. And the only thing that held him back was a bad O line. And even that really struggled to actually halt him, because he did eclipse over 1,000 yards rushing, 14 touchdowns. He had 5 per rush, but I really credit that to a poor D line, a poor O line for Florida State, because what he was able to do, and what I like to look at, is what he's able to do when a hole is not opened up for him, what he's able to do when a yard is about as max as he can get. And what I saw with Akers is something special that a good O-line and a good offense could really use as a weapon, and could use them about second, third round. And the guy just, again, does it all. He had 30 receptions, too, 225 yards, 4 touchdowns. He kind of gives me, and this is a comp to Florida State, a Devontae Freeman kind of feel, where he's an electric playmaker, and you just got to give him the ball and let him run with it.
Yeah, I mean, another thing about Cam Akers is if you've been playing in Devy leagues for a while, you know that this running back coming out of high school was the most hyped player we've had in a long time. Everyone was so excited from him. I believe he ran the Wildcat in high school, so he
Oh,
transitioned
he
over
was
to
quarterback.
running back at
Mhm.
Florida State, then just got he had developed for the first couple of years, and then by the time he was developed as a running back, his offensive line was one of the worst in the country. So here, you're
115th.
just kind of betting on the talent and not necessarily the profile.
Yeah, their O line was 115th in the nation. I mean, that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
So what he was able to produce with that, and it's insane. And what he could do at the next level, he's projected a 4.5 speed. The guy he has a chance to really be legit in the NFL.
No, I completely agree with you. I think he's one of the most talented running backs in this class. I'm just worried about the NFL draft capital and the opportunity he's going to get. Like, if he's drafted highly, I'm going to be all over him. But even if I don't care where he gets drafted, unless it's somewhere crazy like Kansas City, I think I'm taking this next guy over him. That's Jerry Jeudy. Not my, I agree with you. I think CeeDee Lamb is the number 1 wide receiver in this class. I do think Jerry Jeudy's the number 2 wide receiver. I know a lot of people have him as their number 1 wide receiver, but this is just a guy that can do anything. He's really shifty with the ball in his hands, like CeeDee Lamb, and he's just a great route runner. And I want him to be a top 15 pick, maybe going to the same spot I said where I would like CeeDee Lamb, the Arizona Cardinals. I think that landing spot would be great for either one of these players. And I I'm going to go back to Alabama wide receiver and kind of compare him to Amari Cooper. I think Jerry Judy's going like just the way he plays. You watch him, it could just be the helmet. That's why I'm saying it's a lazy comp.
Yeah.
But I do see a little bit of Amari Cooper in him, and he's going to have the draft capital. He's going to be a top 15 pick. So I think he's going to be a great guy for your fantasy team.
Well, yeah, I saw about the same comp with Jerry Judy. I think the route running similarities, how clean they are with their route running, in space danger, and I think like Amari, I think there's a slight issue with getting off the line and beating their man at the point of attack. But I mean, you get him in open space, he is really dominant with the ball in his hands.
Yeah. All right. Well, you want to go down to your next guy that you have at number 7?
My number 7 pick, and this is with all hope that he stays injury free, unlike college. I'm gonna go with Colorado's wide receiver Laviska Shenault, and I'm really hoping I've been saying that name right because that's how.
It sounded right to me.
So I just want to list out his measurables. He is 6'2", he's 220, he's 21, and he's a projected 4.5 speed. So you're getting a big wide receiver here. You're getting some high range speed, and in what he was able to do with his team in Colorado when he was on the field is just, it's something to watch. His tapes were absolutely stand out to me. Again, he was hurt a bunch of weeks. Can't remember off the top of my head how many weeks he was hurt, but he put up 700 yards, 4 touchdowns on 52 receptions. And this is kind of a throwback comp. I see him as like a Brandon Marshall. I don't know if you really kind of remember Brandon Marshall at all, but just an extremely physical kind of wide receiver, really dominant in the one-on-one game, and can really dominate anywhere on the field. And that's kind of how I see Laviska Shenault being as an NFL wide receiver.
What I love about him is he was very, very productive his sophomore year of college. So I know he dealt with a lot of injuries, but if we look back to his sophomore year, he put up a lot of production there. He was better his sophomore year than his junior year, which honestly doesn't really. I mean, I'm not going to knock him for that. I think he was just probably dealing with a lot of nagging injuries his junior year. So I mean, we're looking at just a upside, high ceiling wide receiver here, and I love it. I don't think. I mean, maybe he gets the draft capital. And I think just landing spot's going to be massive for him. I know before we started recording, you said that you liked him going to Detroit.
I liked him as Detroit, and that's only because when I was trying to figure out a comp for him, I ran across Calvin Johnson. Now,
okay, we can't say that. We can't say that.
I know I can't say it, but man, I'm like, if they had a dominant wide receiver that can win one-on-one deep balls like that to go along on the other side with Kenny Golladay, I think Matt Stafford and that offense, they have a lot of really good pieces. It's just got to start coming together for them. So yeah. I like that as a place for him.
All right, well, let's go to 8.
Gotcha.
All right, sorry guys, accidentally hit stop recording. Went and got some water, but now we're back. And at number 8, I'm going to take Clyde Edwardsville. And this is a running back that wasn't really on the radar, and it's kind of scary that he played in just such a prolific offense with so many weapons at LSU. So he is a guy that does have his concerns just because we don't know if he's a product of the offense or he's an actual great running back by himself. But I do know that he's only 20 years old, and he's going to have the NFL draft capital because we know that NFL teams are going to be trying to get guys from this LSU national title winning team. And the one word that comes up with him is shifty. I mean, the man can play. He's a great receiver, had over 450 receiving yards. And I mean, he's just a guy that I think is going to have an NFL role. I don't know if he has the ceiling, but it's a really safe pick.
Yeah, I kind of just came up with this one. I've been thinking about it. A light Kareem Hunt, really dominant in both running and passing, and can stand behind the line and make a block if a team needs to throw deep. I think he's a really sneaky guy who came into an LSU running back system that they projected. I think his name is John Emery, is a freshman LSU running back that they predicted was going to take that job without an issue. And Edwards-Helaire stole it from him, and he really ran with it, and he made a really good 1-2 punch with Burrow in the passing offense.
Yeah, and I just see a lot of hype coming from him lately. Like whether it's from Twitter, whether it's from talking heads on ESPN, he's just
Mm-hmm.
getting a lot of traction, mainly because of that national title run. And I don't necessarily know if he deserves this extra attention, but
Mm-hmm.
I know that this extra attention has the possibility of getting him drafted highly in the NFL. And if you get drafted highly in the NFL, that team's going to want to give you that opportunity.
Absolutely. And I think it's well deserved. I mean, 17 touchdowns, 1,400 yards is something to look at as something that deserves a little bit of recognition. So I
Yeah.
absolutely agree with that pick.
Well, let's hear who you got at number 9.
So my number 9 pick, I'm going to go with T. Higgins, Clemson wide receiver. Um, I think he's a really, really good NFL wide receiver. I think he has the abilities of Lamb and Judy. I think he just falls a little bit under. Um, but I think he's a really good NFL ready wide receiver. He's 6'4", 200. He's only 21. 1,000 yards receiving, 13 touchdowns on 59 receptions. I mean, my personal comp to him was Mike Evans, and that's obviously again a ceiling comp.
Yeah.
Who's another tall wide receiver, works the whole field, wins in contested catches, and that's what I see as a as someone that breaks down players. I like to see guys that can win in contested plays because it shows they can dominate with more physical cornerbacks that they'll experience in the NFL. So I saw Mike Evans and I thought of T. Higgins, both big, lengthy guys who go up and make plays.
Hey, man, I like it. Well, let's go to my guy. This guy is boomer bust.
Yeah.
He's going to be great or he's going to be horrible. I mean, because he wasn't that good in college. He had a lot of flashes, but we can kind of excuse away his lack of production because of the offense he played in, and that's Jalen Rhaegar. And the thing about Jalen Rhaegar is he is an athletic freak. He just has the speed and he has the movement capabilities that not many prospects offer. And I know I'm the guy who always just harps back to this NFL draft capital, but I know Jalen Rhaegar is going to go to the NFL Combine. He's going to destroy the NFL Combine. He's going to be trending all over Twitter for what he does.
Mm-hmm.
And people are going to get excited about him. And teams are going to get excited about him because we see this all over the NFL. We see McCole Hardman getting drafted in the second round when nobody was on him. And teams are looking for speed because we've heard it time and time again. You cannot teach speed, you can teach other things. So Jalen Rhaegar is a guy that's going to go very high in the NFL draft. And I mean, I think we should be taking him high in fantasy too.
Absolutely, and it's an adapting league, and what we're really seeing is speed killing. It's why you saw guys like Nicole and Paris Campbell going relatively earlier than anyone ever thought would go last year.
Mm-hmm.
It's perfect situation for Rhaegar to do the same thing. I mean, he has 4.3 speed, and again, like you said, that's unteachable. So you get a guy like that on an offense that can use him incredibly well. I mean, you know, that my ceiling play, and I know I'm going really extreme with these ceiling plays, but
Yeah.
he has Tyreek Hill speed, and you see him in open field. It's insane. He punt returns, kick returns. He's a great wide receiver. He plays slot. He plays outside. He can really be a Swiss Army knife for a team, and I think one team is going to draft him, and they're going to use him as one.
All right. Well, let's go to. Oh no, okay. Let's go to your 11th guy. Here first, I want to hear who you originally had, and then we'll get to who you switched to.
Okay. So, all right. Well, you're putting me on the spot here, and so I initially got a little hyped over a running back out of Utah. His name is Zack Moss. He's a pretty cool guy. I had to switch the pick though. I was a little overhyped on him. He's more of a second round kind of guy that you can find in your second round drafts. Um, I just think, and I don't want to talk about him after we finish the 12. He's just a really different back, and I have some comps for him later. But I'm going to go ahead and crack into who my 11th pick was and is now is Justin Jefferson. wide receiver out of LSU, the Biletnikoff winner, 6'3", 195. He's a slot dominant wide receiver, and he is really good. He put up 1,500 yards, 18 touchdowns on 111 catches. I mean, so he is a reception monster, and again, a ceiling play here. He gives me Larry Fitzgerald vibes. An excellent slot receiver, can make a bunch of catches in a game and really turn around an offense and just get chunks and chunks of yards until it wears down a defense. You know, me
Yeah, I
personally,
mean,
yeah.
I like the pick. I like Justin Jefferson. I mean, the same worry that we have with Clyde Edwards-Helaire is right here too. Was he a
Mm-hmm.
product of Joe Burrow in that offense, or
Yeah.
does he have the talent to play? Either way, I mean, if you look at the historic wide receivers who have won the Biletnikoff Award, they've been great. I mean, they've been great college players and they've been good NFL players, two great NFL players. And there's not a lot of bust on that list. There are some, but it's kind of rare if you look at just bust rates from an average player to a Biletnikoff winner. So, I mean, he has the profile. I think it's a great pick.
Yeah, and you know, me being a Florida fan, watching him against us was brutal. I mean, he can go deep, he can attack the middle of the field, and what he's really good at is just catching the ball and making things happen for himself. He's got excellent hands. He's a contested catch monster, and he's just a really good wide receiver. And I definitely don't see him too much as a factor of Joe Burrow. I think he can definitely make a name for himself in the NFL.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to go to my last guy, and I don't want to be this guy, but I'm going to have to take him just because he's going to be a top 15 NFL draft pick, and that's purely for his speed, kind of like Jalen Rhaegar. This is
Like
Henry
Marquise Brown
Henry
last.
Ruggs.
Yep.
I mean, he is going to be unbelievably fast. I think Scott told me this, or someone said something along the lines of Tyreek Hill is the fastest NFL player clocked in game speed, and Henry Ruggs was either as fast, almost as fast, or he was around there. Like
Mhm.
he's going to come out and just destroy the combine. It's going to be like a John Ross effect where just because of how fast he runs, he's going to go way too high, but it doesn't matter because he's going to get consistent NFL opportunity. NFL team is going to be so hard to give up on him. And a fit that I would really like is the Packers. I think he's going to be. I think he would be a great fit there, help them stretch the field. And I will say, I think he's going to be a great NFL wide receiver, and I think he's going to be a good fantasy wide receiver. I think
Mhm.
he's going to help an NFL offense just open things up a lot more than he's going to help your fantasy team. And he's a guy that I'm not worried if he goes to, just say if he goes to Arizona. I've been bringing that team up a lot lately.
Yeah.
I'm not bumping Christian Kirk down my rankings at all. If anything, I'm bumping him up my rankings because I think Henry Ruggs, he's not going to command a lot of targets, but he's just going to make the offense, any offense, more efficient.
Oh, absolutely, and I couldn't agree more. And I think the spot like Green Bay is a really good spot to go, especially when you saw specifically in the playoffs, national TV, everyone saw it. Devontae Adams was their only guy, and
Yeah.
I guarantee you, Rodgers is missing the day where he had.
Jordy Nelson and Randall Cobb.
Cobb, and oh yeah, when he had options and there wasn't predictability. So, you know, Green Bay is a really good place to go. And I just think Ruggs is definitely a special player. And, you know, specifically for rookie drafts, he kind of gives me a Marquise Brown vibe where
Yeah.
he's drafted early and it's almost just a question on whether or not you're willing to take him, you know, relatively early in a draft. And I see some slight negativities with it, like Marquise Brown. I feel like it's just big game or bust. But I think for an offense, I think he can definitely boost the players around him for sure.
Awesome. Well, that's through the first round. Went through all 12 guys. I don't have any sleepers, but I know you got a couple.
I do have
Let's
a
hear them.
couple.
Let's hear who we should be looking at outside of round one.
So we're gonna bring him back up again. Zack Moss, just shooting from the hip. Really good running back. He has the power style of Henry. Not that he is. Henry's just a different monster, but looking at what Henry was able to do in the playoffs, I think some teams are going to be looking to kind of replicate that. And one thing that I do like about him is his patience on the line. Really good at kind of waiting for holes to open up, kind of like a Bell style with the power running. And then I think just all around, he's just a really good sleeper for being a third 3-down back. With his pass blocking is really good. He can catch the ball. It's not great, but it's not something that's going to hold him back. And then another guy that I really like, a wide receiver from Oklahoma State, Tylan Wallace. Wallace is elusive. He's got breakaway speed. He's great on deep plays. It's another guy like Ruggs and Rhaegar, and we're seeing more like him, where you're just getting speed from him. And, that's a landing spot dependency, but gosh, if he lands in a good spot, that's a guy who I could see sneak up into mid to high second round, maybe fall into the first round. 6'0", 185, 20 years old. He's young, so definitely getting a lot out of him. And, that's really my two sleepers as of right now. Obviously, landing spots and how they do at combine is going to change things for me, but that's what I got going for me right now.
Awesome. Well, I think that's going to be it for the video. Really, really appreciate you coming on. Guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you go down to the description. Check out Tyler's channel. He's going to be posting content regularly. And yeah, it's just great content. Really appreciate you coming on. Anything else you have to say?
Yeah, thank you for having me on. Really enjoyed. It would be great to come back on some other time. Thanks for having
Yeah.
me, man.